And once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Tianro. I'm currently a second-year student enrolled in NUS under the School of Design and Environment. We'd like to give you all a big thank you today for taking the time to be a part of Your Life, the platform that showcases the many outstanding members of the NUS community who are championing causes dedicated to making the world a better place. Now, as always, today's Your Life session will be in 3 parts. Firstly, we'll have a 10-minute speech by our speaker, Ms Denise Phua, followed by a 10-minute interview with Viswa Sivan, the chairman of the Your Life Organizing Committee. Finally, we'll top this off with a 40-minute question-answer session. Now, should you wish to pose a query during the session, you can do so by heading to the microphones placed along the aisle, stating your name, and then speaking into them directly. This is essential as the online community who are looking at this via webcast would not be able to hear a question otherwise. Please keep all queries short and concise, focusing on the why of the speaker's passion rather than the technicality of her work. Thank you for your kind attention. Now sit back and enjoy.
We are a global university. We have a global vision. We recruit students and faculty from around the world. We give them opportunities to learn how to be effective in many cross-cultural settings. And we do this by creating a very diverse environment in NUS. And when people from outside look at the university community, what they see are very rigorously educated individuals who do well in their work.
But you know, there are so many universities that are catching up today, and we need to look for a differentiating factor.
We must have strong heart. We must go beyond just merely academic excellence.
Not what the university does and does well, but what the university stands for.
And that is the passion of the community, students, faculty, staff, and alumni, the spirit of the explorer. Somebody who is mentally curious, who has got initiative, resourcefulness, willing to break new ground, which requires boldness, and yet is somebody who is prepared to do something different, to make a contribution.
NUS needs to be seen as an organization that is the nurturing ground for people with great passion and the will to go out there and make a difference to their society. And that's what underscores You Alive. University that's alive.
Where we have members of the NUS community share their passion and their commitment and their contributions in many diverse fields.
To share their achievements, to share what they have gone through in their life with the student and the graduate community.
Could have been a student. He or she could have been or is a teacher, a faculty, could even be an employee, a staff member, or most importantly, an alumni.
Individuals who have committed themselves to do very interesting and different things in many varied aspects and dimensions of sports, arts, culture, community service, academic work, and what distinguishes them is a great passion that they bring to their work.
The speaker speak for 10 minutes about not so much what he does, but why he does it. What sort of trials and tribulations has he faced? Why does he believe in this? And after that, there will be a question and answer, an interview, a fairly tough interview. Following that, there will be a live question and answer session with an audience comprising about 100 people. You Alive will be in 3 different dimensions. One, in the auditorium, right, in front of a live audience. While that's going on, it will be carried live via webcam to the student population on campus. And the students can actually interact live while they're watching it. The third dimension is we're going to be pumping it to linked websites to more than 200 universities, some of the top universities in the world.
There's another very important dimension to You Alive, and that is it's mainly driven by our alumni.
The whole idea is to provoke thought, ignite that latent flame that I believe strongly exists in each one of us.
There are many things in life that will catch your eyes, but few will catch your heart. And only when you pursue something that you are passionate about can you achieve greater heights.
And to make even more distinctive contributions to the society we live in and to the wider world beyond.
You Alive will epitomize that.
Passion,
Action.
inspiration.
You Alive. For over 20 years, she was a high flyer in the corporate world. Then she gave it all up to serve full-time in social services, looking after the needs of the disabled. She is NUS graduate and Member of Parliament Denise Phua. We scratch beneath the surface to discover the passion that drives her, championing the needs and aspirations of those who may be left behind.
I strongly believe that every child, every adult, whether they're able or less able, whether they're rich or poor, deserve equal access to good quality education, employment, healthcare, accommodation, transport, just like the rest of us in mainstream Singapore. And that's what keeps me going.
Ladies and gentlemen, Denise Phua.
Let me just get through the slides. Get to the slides. It's, I don't seem to have it here. Okay, anyway, let me just start. I thought I'll share tonight using the analogy of a journey to share with you my life journey, how I got here where I am, and then to just share maybe with you some travel tips that I've found it useful so far. The first part I'll just share about growing up. I grew up in a rental flat in where I serve now, the Mobin Kallang GRC. And at that time, there were many of us living in the same rental flat, my whole family. Mom and dad are not educated. They have, but they value education a lot, especially my mother. I went through quite difficult times. We were all congested in the flat, a very small flat. I was giving tuition for quite a long time, supporting my family. My dad was not a very shrewd businessman, and by the time I reached university, I was giving tuition up to about $2,000 a month, and I could support the family. So that's where I am. Oops. Okay. So that's about growing up. So I didn't have a privileged background, less than privileged. And the irony is that, or the funny thing is that I'm serving where I am. I grew up where I'm serving now as an MP. I thought I also should let you know when this is my son, Junie. I discovered he had autism when he was, 3. We knew all along. And when we finally had a diagnosis, I have a friend who told me this, who tried to comfort me and said, Denise, just look at it as a journey of a traveler, who expects to go to country A, but landed up in country B. A country B which was not planned for, a country B where the culture, the language, and the social norms were not familiar. And he says, so don't take it so hard. You will get to like country B. And at the time, I must tell you, that analogy made me even more sad. I wept a little bit more, but decided that I must determine if I want to make a difference to my son, I had to do something different. But 12 years down, I must say that I'm getting to like Country B, still learning a lot, and very determined to make life better for the natives of Country B. This is my family when Junie was 5. We had some publicity here. People wanted to know how we deal with children with special needs. And that's a piece of art that he has. And God is very fair. He's blessed with a talent of art. He does very good work. And these are some of the art pieces that he has. Now, you see, if you're in Singapore, most of us expected, our age group expected to have children who will grow up to go to good schools, good careers, and we all retire. That's the typical 5 Cs. But when you have a child with autism or with special needs, things are quite different. So what I did was really to use my corporate experience. Many of you know that I've been in Hewlett-Packard for many years, and I then later went to Whitlam as the HR director, and then went on to form a company, a leadership training company called the Center for Effective Leadership. And I was working in offices in many parts of the region, in China, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, also in Taipei and Hong Kong, in different places. So when I found out that my son had autism, what I did was really to use up all my skills that I acquired in corporate and try to help him as much as I can. But little did I know that I was really plunged into a world that I was quite unfamiliar with. A world that comprises there are people like speech pathologists, special education people, families, voluntary welfare organizations, and families who either with or without resources, are very lost and don't know what to do. And so that's the world. And I felt at that time, my husband, who was educated overseas, we had a choice. We had a choice either to migrate to where we were advised to, or just to stay back and see if we can fight the system and see if we can help along some people the people we met whom we thought need quite a bit of support. Not the people who are very educated, not the people like you who can access the internet very easily. A lot of them are heartlanders, a lot of them are not educated, and these were the people we come in touch with. And also the professionals who were struggling, trying to I guess, get resources and trying to do the best they can within that world that I never knew before. So I started as an active volunteer in the year 1999, and this is where I first started volunteering. And it's the headquarters of the Autism Resource Center, of which I later become president, at 25 Pixia Street. We rented 3 floors there. By the time we were done with the lease, I got it all painted, and then we left to start the school. And that's the Pathlight School. Pathlight School, this is not, I think I must have deleted, this is not the school that we actually was given. We were given a very, very old school in a part of Ang Mo Kio. And 234,000 in funds, which was hardly anything at that time. I used up 80,000, I remember, for paint, 34,000 for grills, and there was hardly anything left. But because we know not anything better, my volunteers and I started the school. And when we first started the school, because it was a school with very clear positioning, it was meant to give offer a unique blend of not just autism-friendly education, but also mainstream academics. And for children who are cognitively able, and children at that time who were cognitively able with autism do not want to come to schools like this, special schools. Perception was quite low, and although the teachers and professionals were all very qualified. But what happened is we just worked on letting the major be the major, and the school became very popular after several years. We worked on the curriculum, on branding, on making sure that we have very what I call rigorous selection process for all our staff. And today, it stands, the student population size stands at 603 with a very long wait list. And after I started Pathlight, I was then invited to help another charity, the Autism Association, which is another charity. And the AES actually looks after children who not just have autism, but also who have some intellectual difficulty. And that's a vocational school, and that's where I went and took on the role with fear and trembling, because I thought I already was doing it as a full-time volunteer. Okay. This Pathlight School, where I say the pledge every morning with my students. The school is run on two principles. One, normalization. We want the students to be as normal as they can, lifestyle, and as well as dignity, to be as dignified as possible in the school environment. And these are the student counselors. Whatever mainstream have, we felt the children should have. We believe strongly that every child, whether they're able or not able, rich or poor, wherever they come from, as long as they are, human beings and Singaporeans, we believe they have access to good quality education, employment space, and social space as well. A lot of us, my volunteers and I, were quite concerned with the children being left behind, not just by a physical divide, but also by the social divide, and now the digital divide. And so those are the guiding principles that guide us, underpin what we do. This is Eden School. When we first took over Eden School, when I first supervised Eden School, it was quite difficult. Times were difficult. The school had very little resources at the time, and many of the leaders then were also not from the business sector. They were very, very good social workers and special ed professionals, and we went in there together with the professionals. We turned it around, and today it's at a new school. Managed to get funding for them as well, and it's a school that is acquiring also a very long wait list. So sometimes we get bashed quite a lot for that as well. Sometimes we are a victim of our own success. Okay? These are the children when we first took over the school. We did branding. We gave them a good curriculum. We also gave them good uniforms so that every one of them, even though 30 to 40% of these children in both Eden and Pathlight are from low-income families, we make sure that they never have to look poor. And that's one of the principles of dignity that we try to accord them. Eden then has, the parent charity of Eden has what I call a void deck project, looking after adults with disabilities, in this case with moderate to severe disability. And this center is actually located at a void deck in Hougang, and I also was requested to take over, and again with fear and trembling, because this is a space that is not limited to just school years. When we take over day activity centers, this is a space that is really quite neglected in Singapore. Adult services usually last till 55, 65, until the people, the clients or the beneficiaries are old, and they move on to a health model. And so what we did also as a group of volunteers, I'm very, very blessed to have volunteers who are willing to do work with me, and staff who are willing to take on a lot more than their job description in their offer letter. And what we did together was really to turn around this void deck project. And today, it's something that is very reasonable, it's scalable, it's got processes, systems, and we're able to now try to expand and to a few other centers later part of hopefully next year. And so this is another project that we did. This young man is the son of a taxi driver whose mother just passed away. The taxi driver told us, can you take my son? I want to go in Gia Chun. I want to be a sailor. And we told him, no, we'll work together and help your son. And this is one of the young men we're helping. Okay. Went to politics. I became a full-time volunteer in 2005 January, before I joined politics. And in 2006, I was approached to be fielded as a candidate. We prayed about it, and we thought that this might be a platform. My husband and I gave me a lot of support. I said, I've not been working for a while now. He was supporting me. And we decided that it's a good thing to do. And so I said yes to the ruling party, fielded in Jalan Besar, GRC then. And lo and behold, I was very, I think it was good that I was also given a constituency where there are lots of needs. And the plate actually became bigger. In my constituency, which is called Kampung Glam, more than 50% of my residents are above 55 years old, and more than 60% of them live in very small flats and rental flats. The HDB flats, there are 3-room and below, and rental flats as well. So that's my constituency. Let me just show you some of the... These are from my rental flats. You find that although I think it's important to also know that people who are in rental flats or people who are considered to have special needs or disabilities, not all of them want our pity. Many of them really want us to facilitate, to give them a life that is where they can work, where they can have some dignity, where they can have their own home, where they have choices. And so these are the families whom I visit quite regularly. We, as PAP MPs, or even the MPs, most of us do house visits every week. And these are some of the residents. The gentleman here on your right is an old man whom I meet very regularly, and he is. I said, Uncle, when I visit him, I said, Uncle, do you want a bed? No, you're sleeping on the floor. And he says, no, I like to sleep on the floor. And every time we meet him, he'll just have so much joy, and the grassroots and some of the other volunteer organizations are all there to support him. We can't cover every one of them because sometimes we don't know. There are missing gaps, but we try as much as we can to help our residents. I'll just go on then to the second part. Where I just want to share with you some of my travel tips that I thought was useful. I think very important for us, for me and my husband at least, the choice of destination is important for us. I think many of us in Singapore, and especially people like the audience and those who are at home, probably would be very successful in your careers, in your families, and so forth. And if you have read the book by a very famous author called Bob Bilford, he spoke about this concept of success to significance. And a lot of times in life, success might not be just about acquiring things, acquisition of things and possessions and so forth. Success, when we move on to, Bilford actually shared the concept of significance, which is really living beyond oneself and doing something for other people, other than oneself and one's family. And so I think for every one of us, I found that is an important concept for me in terms of the choice of the life destination I want to hold. And my husband did this. He retired last year, and he started a social enterprise. Food and beverage is not the place where you make a lot of money. He was a senior telco VP, but we thought that this would be a good space where we can actually hire and give some employment opportunities and training to the adults with disabilities, with autism, so that they have a chance to be seen in the world, to be heard, and also to just have some dignity and have a chance to work just like any other able-bodied worker. And these are some of the stuff we have in Professor Braun. The second tip I thought I wanted to share was to find fellow travelers. In all my journey, I was very blessed that I'm able to find like-minded travelers, people like Anita Russell here. She was my son's therapist, a very expensive and very popular therapist who closed her clinic to join me in our cause and mission. Dr. Lam Chi Meng on the right here is also a very well-liked, well-respected psychologist who also has given up his work in industrial psychology and also in the special needs sector to join the school instead of being their own bosses. These are fellow travelers serving with me in Kampong Glam. Many of them stay with me weekly until, some of them are here, until after midnight and serving, just writing and serving different people who sometimes may not be very polite to them, but, we serve a lot of people over there with different types of needs. And the third one is really a concept that I learned is what I call C again, courage and consideration. I always talk to the parents and all of us who advocate in the special needs sector. I think it's very, very important to have courage to speak up for one's rights and needs and so forth. But it's also very important to make sure that we bear in mind and to have some consideration, to have some balance between courage and consideration. Because we are not the only ones suffering. There are people, the widows, the orphans, the blind, the visually impaired, the hearing impaired. There are many, many people who also are suffering. And I think we need to make sure that whatever we advocate, it's also something that is sustainable, that is balanced, that can last beyond our personalities and beyond our own advocacy. So that's something that I learned in my journey. And thinkers and doers, I know that in Singapore, where sometimes it's quite elitist, thinkers are always very valued. I do value thinkers. I do value people who are very open-minded. But in my journey as an advocate and working as a full-time volunteer, I found that the doers themselves are important as well. The people who are willing to work Behind every glamorous dream, every presentation like this, every newspaper cutting, behind every dream, every vision are a million unglamorous steps and to plot on, and not many people are willing to take that. So I really, truly appreciate the people who are willing to dirty their hands and do what it needs and what it takes to transform lives. So I value both thinkers and doers, and that's something I learned during my journey. And the last one is really also, I think you've seen the papers today, never to mistake the means for the end. It's very, very often, very possible to fall in love with ourselves, our projects, and forget why sometimes we serve. And that's a lesson that I learned, and we can talk about it later with Vishwa. But it's an important lesson to remind myself that I'm not indispensable, and at the right time, I need to exit if I cannot add any more value. Okay? But in the meanwhile, I try to be of as much value as I can before I expire. And the last one is something that my old boss we used to laugh, because we're always laughing. And we said that, everybody who serves, we don't have to act like we are such self-sacrificial martyrs, with long faces and all that. I think when we serve, we can choose to have joy, we can choose to laugh, we can choose to not take ourselves so seriously. And I think it just makes the journey a lot easier to travel. And that's one of the tips that I learned. And the last one is really this, finishing well. Once I was at a retreat, a church retreat, and I was reflecting on life and things, and I looked out of where I was sitting, and I saw 2 trees. One was barren, and one was lustrous with fruits. Not big fruits, but quite many fruits. And I started to think that, if me or my friends and my volunteers were to make the right choices in life, there's a good chance that our tree will be an abundant tree that is fruitful, that can bear fruit to feed and to support other people. But if we make the wrong choices, there's also a very good chance that our tree of life is a barren one. And with that, I just want to end off this 10-minute session that I'm given, and to just wish you an abundant, fruitful life. Okay, thank you very much.
Don't need a mic. This mic gets me into a lot of trouble. Let's cut to the chase. Denise and I have known each other for many years now. We were in campus together. We were students together. And one of us has aged. Now, it's amazing watching Denise grow. And I mean that in a positive way. And it's with great pride that I say she's my friend. Now, but nevertheless, I have to ask you a few questions.
You apologize for that.
Some people have said that you managed to achieve a lot of what you did, especially in the last few years, because you leveraged on your position as a member of parliament. Somebody else could not have achieved what you did if not for the wind pushing you forward in the form of political clout. How would you respond to that?
Well, Vish, I actually volunteered from 1999. And that was when I was holding, of course, still a traveling job and all. And then I went on and I gave up corporate life after I maneuvered selling the company and making sure that. And then when I was offered a regional job, I decided not to take it. They can find themselves a CEO, but I think the charities that I was serving was very hard to pay people to do things, especially at the leadership level. So I became a full-time volunteer and made the decision in 2004 and plunged 2005. And I only became an MP in 2006. And even then, and so I must say that the volunteering has started way before that, and way before Pathlight was even started. And
but how have things changed? How had things changed after you became an MP? Was it a plus or a minus?
I think it was plus and minus. The plus is that I had, my skin was really thick. So even before I became an MP,
the skin was always thick.
Always thick. And even before I became an MP, I was already writing tons of reports and papers. Consultant, so a lot of proposals and all. Of course, a lot get thrown out. And when the right minister came along, that was useful.
Yeah.
Well, when Minister Taman came along, we had very long, crucial discussions, and he was encouraging. And I think he was also one of the reasons, because besides the PM, he was one of the reasons that I saw, there's something good in
Change.
the PAP. Yes, and
You mean when you joined, you didn't see it?
no, I saw it before that.
I had to put that in. Okay.
And I think some of them are really good ministers. And anyway, so it's useful. It's useful in the sense of getting access to policymakers directly. It's useful in the sense that there are some people who will talk to you only if you have a title, But there are, to be fair, there are also many of them out in the civil service and the VWOs who did not change, who were just as passionate, just as supportive. So I must say that that's my experience. And I think the parliamentary platform was very useful to put forth, positions and inputs to policies. But I do find that much of the work is actually done on the ground. For example, we were already running a school. If we didn't plot, if we didn't bother to work on curriculum, pedagogy, getting, be very strict about getting the teachers selection process and so forth, and be very serious about what we do. I don't think you can fake it. When you run services, you can't fake it. So I would say that it's both the work and the work is important, the plotting to make things happen and to make lives transform, knowing the children, knowing the adults we're serving, and taking that decision to do it seriously, not for a show. So that's important, whether you hold a title of MP or not. Okay. So I guess the Parliament platform was useful in terms of policy, giving policy inputs and so forth. But the real work has to be done on the ground. I think nothing can replace that. Yeah. And the clients and the beneficiaries are not stupid. They can see, they know what they want. They have choices, and so. I
must say, having served in Parliament in the last 2 years, it was always a joy to see Denise stand up and speak, because she refuses to sit.
He's one of the few who clap for me.
and the speaker on a few occasions said, Ms Phua, I see Ms Phua, and she'll just quietly ignore the speaker and carry on speaking, Very few.
And get whipped.
I think the speaker had a soft spot for you as well. Saying, it's all right, let her go. Because one of the things I realized was there are a lot of members of Parliament, including ministers, who actually, I think, empathize with the causes that you are fighting for. And I think what Denise you shared is very important. If you didn't demonstrate, if you weren't in a position to demonstrate that you had done the legwork, I don't think you'd have gotten so far in terms of getting political support for some of the causes you've been
But I didn't do the legwork to get whatever. I just do the legwork because I know the children do need it, and there needs to be a system. And most of us come from corporate, and there's bottom line things. There are things that have to be done if you're in a certain business. There are core things and you can't fake it.
But what are some of the policy changes you were able to effect as a member of Parliament in this area? You have. I know you have lobbied for several years. I saw you lobbying, and you won some of those battles.
I must say, although I did cross swords with the MCYS Minister, Vivian, at that time, but at the end of our term, I must say we came to a pretty good understanding. He was, to be fair to him, he was one of the ministers who actually changed quite a number of things. We had the Enabling Master Plan for Disabled. We worked together. And you see, MCY's programs are usually means tested. And some of these means testing can be very mean, it's very low income, before you can get
They just got the grammar wrong. It's actually mean testing.
No. And I think Minister Vivian was one of is the minister who actually agreed to a hybrid model that I proposed to them, which is, it was a very expensive early intervention program. And we had a hybrid model whereby there's a fixed amount of $300. Whether you're rich or poor, whatever income level, you're a Singaporean child. So you get that. Exactly. And then on top of that, means testing is then applied. And so that is, to me, a very, very useful model.
You achieved that when? Last year?
last year it was formalized, but it was really in the discussions of the enabling master plan. A lot of things are not just discussed in Parliament, where you get on papers and all. A lot of things. There's a lot of plodding, explaining, writing, and some people will be open to ideas. Some people are not. Then we just have to, as volunteers and advocates, we just have to find a way and find someone who will listen to us. If we feel strong enough about some of the things. And then another one is the satellite model that I think changed the. Well, Pathlight itself has changed the education landscape. Everybody thinks that special schools will do washing, cooking, and vocational work, but never did they think that people with special needs sometimes can also study. And even if they have some intellectual difficulty, quite a lot of them can study, basic literacy and numeracy, and they need that to survive. Yes. To survive in Singapore and the world, no? Or if they cannot read this computer, but surely they can send play a game on it. They can send hopefully an SMS or through different ways, through the iPhone or Android or whatever. So these things are important. So in the past, I think special schools are seen as, or given a certain perception that they are this way, and then mainstream schools, of course, focus a lot on academics. And I think come along Pathlight, it was really blurred. I think Pathlight confused everybody, including myself at first. It's really a blend. It's really a blend between a typical mainstream school and a typical special school. It's a special school that provides mainstream education. So that changed everything. Yep. Another thing we changed was the satellite model. And that's something that I feel really proud of. I saw this in Australia, I saw this in America. A satellite model is where classes or groups of special needs students go into, and at university level as well, go into a mainstream education institution with some support, and they study there. Yeah. Some of them go into same academic classes, some of them don't. But I always maintain, I said it in Parliament, I said it a million times in different ways, same thing in different ways, even if children, if people, adults, with special needs cannot study or learn together, surely they can go to the toilet together. Surely they can eat together. Surely they can, socialize and play together in the same field or walk on the same corridor. A lot of these disabilities are not contagious. Yes. You can sit with somebody who is hearing impaired next to you, or autistic, or dyslexic, and you won't get a disease. You won't get infected. So I feel very strong. And this was a model that when we started piloting it in Pathlight School, it was kind of underground. We just talked to the next door principal and said, I don't have space. Can my children come over to your class? I'll pay you, I'll lease, can we lease some classrooms? Because that's legal. Yeah. And so we put our students there. And then it started that way, kind of informal and all. And it became so successful. The mixing, integration was great. And the mainstream students benefited. They become hopefully better people as well, seeing that the world has, comprises people who were sometimes not like you, And our students benefited being seen and heard. And so that happened. And when Gan Kim Yong became the Special Ed Minister of State, a title like this, and he then in Parliament officially endorsed the satellite model, where students from a special school can actually study within the same compound as the mainstream students. Yeah. And that's something that I feel is an achievement. And so these are just a couple of examples.
How do you think that achievement has helped to transform the way we look at kids, or even adults for that matter, with special needs?
No, I don't want to fake it. I don't think the journey is complete.
Yeah.
And it's really now still limited to special needs children who can, study,
Yeah. But how do you hope to see this change the way society looks at, or others look at, children or adults with special needs?
I'll answer it from a different perspective. You see, as an MP, I'm exposed to grassroots events and all. I think, during our time, we mix, Yep. we interact, whether you're Indian or Chinese or you're smart or not so smart, whatever. We interact, and that's how we grew up, to become a society that seems to be a little bit blind, a bit, to racial difficulties and differences and all that.
Except you don't like the smell of my curry.
Huh? No, I love your curry. Actually, because of that, I love curry or Indian food and Malay food, actually, much more than Chinese food. Sorry, Chinese. And I think they're much more superior than the Chinese curry. Anyway, and we grew up that way. And when we grow up that way, we know that we're part of family. The lines are blurred. You're not so conscious that he's different, or his color is different, or my color is different, or how come he's socially so, not so strong as the others, or how come sometimes he can see and I can't see. And when I think so, I feel so strongly that when children and people grow up together, the bond is natural, the bonding is strong, the bonding is not artificial, and that's important for a country. It's important for a country like Singapore.
So you're talking about early intervention. Start it early. The interaction, breaking down the walls, the barriers.
Growing up together.
Yeah.
Growing up together. And that's what I hope the satellite model will allow for this sector, the special needs sector.
So
that,
what next,
more
Denise?
and more.
What next? What do you hope to push for next?
I'm going to be really blatant about this. I don't think there are enough people who want these children in the mainstream schools. And I'm looking for a third one. So if you're hearing out there, if you're a principal or a teacher or you're a person of influence, then I'd like you to consider opening up your school or your education institution and let our children in. They deserve that chance. They are not having any infectious diseases. They are part of a Singapore family. I think they deserve a chance to be there. They don't deserve just to be CIP projects, objects of pity, to be seen once a year when it's convenient. It's difficult when you have people who are different every day in your backyard. But they are part of this family. They're sons and daughters. I say it many times, and I'm not tired of saying it. They're sons and daughters. They deserve a place. Look at your family. I mean, does your family all come, very smart and looking this way and handsome and all? You have your grandparents who are, who are economically very viable or strong in the past, and then they become old and they might have Alzheimer's or dementia or physically, difficult challenge now, and they're part of the family. You don't kick them out or you don't put them aside not to be seen and heard, and I think when we are able to have institutions where people of different races, not just abilities, but races, religions and abilities come together, it speaks a lot for the nation. It's something that is very, very, very useful, in building our nation and country. And I just ask, whoever's out there, I need a satellite school. I need a lot because I have many children whom I'm educating, the secondaries, the teenagers, and I need that. And if you have a heart and you believe in this value, please come and see me.
Well, maybe my proposal to the Office of Alumni Relations is maybe this is a cause we in the alumni can champion. Together with Denise, I put it to us. It's something that we could. And throw it open to alumni of NUS.
Let me just share with you one model I saw in the world. And Singapore is not ready. And when I spoke in Parliament, I'm quite sure not many people listen to me anyway. It's not featured in the papers at all. And I saw in England an education village. And this village has what we call common facilities right in the middle. Okay? And it links 3 schools. One mainstream primary school, one mainstream secondary school, and one special school. And that special school comprises 16 students, enrolled students, who are not just able to study mainstream. They have kids who are really quite physically very challenged and even mentally very challenged. But they're there. And I was there. I spent a few days there, and I saw so much movement. There was a lot of common space, where everybody just mixes. Yeah. And lo and behold, I saw one day when I was just walking around and studying the model and all that, I saw the mainstream kids, the students, teenagers, they were going into the special room, feeding, and that was maybe a bit extreme, but Singapore is definitely not ready for this, but and they were feeding the very, I would say, very disabled children, who were on the tube, and feeding them. And I saw that with my eyes and say, wow, what a great learning opportunity. What a great way to build a human being, and what a great way to grow up and study not just the math, science, English, but just how to become a good human being, and to be of use to somebody else, not just to ourselves and to our family only. And I think with that kind of education, I think a lot of problems we face in Singapore might just be a bit diluted, and people will just be a bit more tolerant to each other, a bit more acceptance, a bit more accepting of differences, whether is it political views or race or religion or abilities. because I know you won't get offended when I point this side.
No,
Yeah, so that's what
at the start of this interview, I said one of us has aged. You can tell that she hasn't. And when I was watching you speak, Denise, I remember the same expression, the same energy you had in 1980 when we were students in NUS. That's amazing. You have not lost it. Many of us get jaded. And worse, we lose our innocence, we lose our idealism. It's one of the worst travesties of modern society. We start rationalizing away ideals. And I applaud you for not losing it. And I'm sure your husband, Zate, has a lot to do with it. I think you're very fortunate to have a husband to stand by you right through this cause. And it's not the end of this conversation. That's a preamble to invite questions from the floor. Questions? Yes, please. Our regular from Johor, is it?
My name is Tan Si Peng, alumnus
Yes, sir.
University of Malaya at that time. I have two questions. First thing is, you have not defined what is autism. I mean, the person with autism, how does he behave? He doesn't write on a name that I'm an autism child and so on.
Mr. Tan, you must
Please
come for my
avoid me.
lecture, 3-day lecture.
I know.
Okay, I'll define
But what
it.
I'm trying to say is, do they behave differently from the normal child? That's one thing, right? Second thing is, whatever you are doing now is you accept the inevitable. That fellow suffer from it, we must do something to him. But what I'm trying to say is, can we go down to fundamental to see whether there's a cure for autism, or whether you could reverse the process that eventually he will become normal again, right? So can we have some research done on this part? Then one more question I ask is...
Hey, that's 3 already, no?
What?
Okay, never mind.
Okay. Your video showed that your son has got special ability. There's a Chinese saying, 天生我材必有用.
对
So whatever they do, there's a compensation factor. You see, people with lame leg and all that, they grow up to be very beautiful, particularly girls, so that people can choose her to be the wife. So in this case, all these people suffering from some ability, they have a compensation in some way, like your son got a special artistic thing. So can we not have some means to find out what ability they have and try to nurture that one? And probably he can shine compared with the ordinary child.
Right, thank you, Mr. Tan. Denise, you want to take
I'll
that?
take the third question first. You're right, Mr. Tan. In the world of autism, there are more people with special talents than the person with typical who is typical. Okay, and in the normal, it's estimated in a typical population like Vishwa, 1% has special talents. By the world of in the autism community, it's estimated that 10%. So when they have that special talent, it is up to us educators and advocates, to find out, to identify what that special talent is and nurture. And that's what we try to do in schools. And some schools do it better, some don't. I strongly believe if you want to do anything that is scalable, we try to structure it so that it's not person dependent or personality dependent. So that's one. However, I do want to, this is something I thought about for a while. I also have met, as a result of my volunteering work and moving around in the special needs sector, there are, besides people who have special talents, there are people who do not have special talents. People who are really very, very difficult to look after, and their families or even their helpers find it very difficult. Some who are abandoned. I'm a director of an orphanage in an Asian country in the north. And that orphanage only takes in children who are disabled, and from young they were abandoned, and many of them are disabled. So they are, and that's my point. I think as a country, I think we will have to nurture those people, anyone who's got talent to nurture, and maximize their potential. And this is what we should do. Everybody should have access to good education, just like the mainstream kids.
Yep.
But how do we treat those? How do we include those who cannot be reversed? Their disability cannot be reversed, and they just need us to accept them as part of society, even if they are not economically viable or useful to us. And that's something, and I mean, I don't want to curse anyone, but you know, quite a number of us here, when we grow old, we might become disabled. Not very able you know, my mother has Alzheimer's. She's totally capable when she was young. And today she's on, you know, 24/7 care, you know, given by one of my helpers. And so when people are not so able to contribute, to be useful, what do we do with them? Especially if they're part of our family, our Singapore family. I think that's something we need to think about and need to look at. And I don't think it's just the work of government alone. Government has to take the lead. But the rest of us must decide also what kind of country, what kind of values we want to have, you know, in looking after people who are no more so-called useful.
Denise, may I ask you, I mean, you've been
I'll come to your autism question later.
No, 1 minute. If you've traveled quite a bit, you've seen the climate in this context in several other countries. Do you think the way Singapore is, the way we relate to people with special needs, especially children, is significantly different from how it is in other countries that you've been to?
Not so much in Asia. I think Asia is about if I look at the services, minus all, I studied all the legislations already on special needs and still deciding what's my final position on legislation. And if you look at legislation, actually Singapore is one of the weakest ones, so-called, not provided for. But in terms of services, Singapore has quite a lot compared to the rest. We're just very careful about what we commit, in Asia. Okay, and then in the maybe more in countries where the special needs course is more supported, services are quite a lot. You know, in fact, a lot is provided, and some services are very free. You know, and considered free. But really, we all know there's no free lunch in this world, and quite a lot is also kind of paid for by taxpayers. You know, who and some of these tax margins are really, brackets are really quite high. Okay? But I do think that Singapore, the final position is really to study what's available. And it's typical of Singapore. We can do it. We don't have to be like Australia or America, where it's, you know, a lot of freebies or whatever, because we don't want to pay that kind of taxes. You know? But at the same time, I don't think we have to be like a third world country where you don't care, you dump them, you know, when they are disabled, you know, to outside an orphanage. And so I think that we can find, just like other things that we are concerned with in Singapore, we can study models available. We sit down, hold crucial conversations on what do we want to see in this country.
What do you think is holding us back? It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And I think we are fairly commonsensical in our societies. But what's holding us back?
I don't think it's holding back. I spoke to the different ministers, including MM when he interviewed me, you know. And I think one of I think we've done a lot in the last 7 to 10 years compared to the last 20 to 30 years. I believe it's, to be fair, I believe it's due to the developmental stage of our country. I guess when people are concerned with putting, you know, food on the table, you know, and on even just starting schools for just typical children, it's quite, it's not a priority to think about those who are marginalized. And, you know, so I believe that it's timing. And second, I also believe that the time has come. The time has come, and we need to sit down and hold those crucial conversations. What do we want to see in this country? You know, and we need to balance it. Yeah. You know, I mean, autism, I mean, I know I have a child with autism, but I'm fully aware, you know, autism is not the only problem in this world. And when we advocate, we need to look after the other people as well. Not just those who have other disabilities or special needs, but the widows, the orphans. I mean, in my estate, there are lots of, you know, families where very young children, the father is in jail, in prison, and we need to look at total solution for that. And that's one of my priorities as well. So we need to know that, you know, again, balance, so that whatever we propose in terms of the conversation, the guiding principles, the models, or the system that we, you know, hopefully one day will leave behind, you know, will be sustainable, will last beyond our time, and will really become the fundamental, you know, underpinning of our society, even when we're not around. So I do think the time has come, and we must take our place. And that's why for the young people out there, and I work with lots and lots of young people. I have an internship program where hundreds of GCA level, JC grads apply before they go to the university. They come and work with me for 6-7 months as interns, yes, in my special schools, Eden, and all, yeah. And also we have people people who care. And I think with them, they are, every year we have so many of them, they are ambassadors, so I'm hopeful. The time has come, we must not give up. We need to, lead, we need to make sure that the agenda, it doesn't go off the agenda. PM has, given air time for this, and let's not let that slip, and let's, at least in my, I just got elected for the next 5 years, and I'm going to do what I can. And I want to invite those of you who care enough, that you think it's the right thing to do, to include people who are different from us, people who may not be as able as us, that if we want to include them in our country, you come and join me. But serve with a serving heart. A lot of times people serve because I want to do this only, I want to be in this board, and if you don't give me a title, I don't want to do, Yeah. I think that's,
so not
to me, that's not serving.
PBM, right?
Okay?
Don't expect PBM, huh?
Don't.
And then BBM.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, recognition is good, but please don't do it for awards and all that, Goodness, it's so uninspiring.
Well, let's have the next question, comment. I'll come to you in a while. Yes, sir.
So just a statement about autism.
Yes,
autism,
sorry.
three areas where difficulties are experienced. Number one, social communications. Very difficult for them. Another one is social interaction. Okay? And the third one is in terms of flexibility of behavior. Some of them prefer things to be structured, more rigid, and so forth. And they term it, the nickname is a male disease because 4 out of 5 are males, men. Okay? And some people have mild autism, some people have moderate, and some people have severe. And so that's the basic. But if you come to my website, under Autism Resource Center, all the material is there. And if you want to come for training, I will consider giving you a discount since you asked this question.
I came to this question from two thoughts. Because you mentioned that there shouldn't be a CIP project, that you just go once off, and it's something you just see. And also you mentioned the education village, which you saw in England, which is a very interesting concept. So my question is, because Singapore is not ready, I mean in the context of the education village, it's not ready to have something like that in Singapore, but do you think that Singapore students, in terms of like JC, Poly, not just NUS, is there any way they can be mobilized into a creative volunteering effort? In the sense of, as a capacity in a volunteer, although there are structural limitations, do you think on the ground where in a volunteer capacity, in the sense of like CIP programs and things like that, is there any way that we can be useful as volunteers? And if there's such a way, how will you challenge us to be useful? Yeah, thank you.
First, I better correct myself in case I get fired from the GPC of Education. CIP is good, okay? And I'm just saying the impact is limited, but it's important. Look, if you're always in a school where you never get to see anyone who's different or less able or less fortunate than you and all, you never see an old person who needs feeding, I think you better go for your CIP and go and take a look, and help a little bit. So CIP is good, all right? The impact, however, for things that I'm trying to do in terms of systems and values and all that, then it's limited. Okay, so I do want to say that there is value to CIP, because if you don't even do that, my God, then I think it's even worse. You won't even get to see anything outside of your Facebook and all. So I think it's important. Okay. The second thing is, yes, I think there can be more creative, innovative CIPs, and the energy that can be harnessed to do something even bigger and different. I do think, and I'll be very honest with, I find that sometimes when people put on the cap, the hat or the cap? The cap of volunteer, they tend to see it as a CCA. It's something that, we do or they do only when they have time, after everything else. And to me, some of these issues, if they're important enough, I either get very serious volunteers who are really, all the way all out to commit to time and resource and to carry through the idea. I'd rather get very serious volunteers, or I get staff. People who do it professionally. Okay, so but if it's something that's really, really important and requires not just a one-day meeting where you come and make a few comments and all, then I think the kind of volunteers, the kind of CIP folks, the kind of people involved must take it very seriously. So when I run a school, after 1 year I realized, if I want this thing to work, I got to come out and do it. If I care enough, this thing is going to work. There's a space, there's a necessity for this thing to happen in Singapore, and for these children who are just crying out, in the mainstream schools, not being helped, then I have to come out and do, And at the same time, I engage volunteers, who can come once a week. I have, in fact, my current principal is my volunteer, whom, one of my partners, and I told her, just come and interview. I need people who are mature, who can understand, and she was interviewing with, helping me to interview teachers and staff and all, as a volunteer every Saturday, until she fell in love with the mission, and then she joined us. Okay, so there are places there's a place for volunteers. If it's something very serious that needs to be sustainable, done every day, then I think you either you need very serious volunteers, or you need staff who's there, every day to do it. So yes, there's a place for CIP. There's a place for innovative CIP. We just need to sit down together and decide, and you must care enough. You must care enough that it doesn't just become appendix to other activities that you have in your life. Because these people who we are helping, we take them seriously. They are human beings also. They deserve. They don't deserve just the crumbs of our time. They deserve also serious professional work. When I work as a volunteer, I said, we need to make sure we have vision, mission, then how to achieve this, you must have some strategy. You don't understand the word strategy, never mind, it means how to do it, okay? And then how to do it means what to do when, when it's not done, got no consequences, So basically, to me, I take it seriously. If something is important enough, I think anything that's worth doing, is worth doing it well. So that's my point about, volunteers.
Denise, could you give us a sense of how you're funding Pathlight and Eden, all your various ventures, how are you funding this? It
took me a few years to understand the whole thing, okay? You really want to know? Okay,
yeah.
School, Okay. Special schools led by volunteer or VWOs, voluntary welfare organizations. The basic expenses are paid by government. Okay?
Basic expenses?
Basic expenses as in, there's a certain how do you say, teacher's salary.
Okay.
If you want to pay more, that's not basic, okay. Or the tiles. No, this is not basic, This is this is expensive. So if I want okay. So for example, Pathlight, I want a cafe that I can bring in, and I did. I bring in Starbucks, Mr. Bean, and all. Okay, and I need special kiosks. I need a place where I can work and hang work systems and all that. I want it to look dignified, as though it's real, I studied the substation. When I travel, my husband really get irritated. I'll study the substation, the kind of models. I'll take picture, and we created kiosks and very nice cafe that looks something like Starbucks. And Starbucks came and support us, tell us which color to paint and all. Okay, and those are not paid. Those are not standard. So we have a bigger vision than what is standard, and then we have to find money for it. But government and NCSS do pay for that basic for special schools. Okay, and then
and the building.
The building basics as well. There's some formula that's being used. So anything that I want, if I want to create a rooftop, what do you call horticultural workspace, work site, I have to find money myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's considered not basic, and I think it happens for all the schools.
Yep.
So that's fair. And of course, what we call per cap, and when I first took over an autism school that runs mainstream, my God, mainstream teachers are quite expensive, compared to special school teachers. That's 7 years ago, and the budget was like totally not enough. We were considering selling our house, and so I wrote.
Sold your house yet?
No, Chad. Yeah. So this government is not too bad, Okay. And so I wrote a lot of proposals, and at first I thought nobody took me seriously, but finally, lo and behold, the per cap went up. So that was, first 2 years was very difficult. If you run a school or finances, you need a certain number to break even, And the social workers don't know how to count all this. So people like us, all the greasy folks, will come and count all this. Look, you need this. If you want to survive, you want to pay, salaries for teachers, and you need this kind of financial modeling and all that. And so the few of us did that, and now it's okay. I think it's not a matter of money now, to be fair, for special schools.
Okay.
Okay, for early intervention, again, I shared with you the model.
Yeah.
For the MCYS programs, they tend to be means tested.
Yep.
And so, and I think also to be fair to them, they are working out different models. What's the right ceiling, income ceiling to go? What's the basic expense? Is it so high? If it's so high, and what if you have 2 or 3 disabled people in your family? Then how do you count? I think those are things that they are currently having conversations. And we are going to, I was just invited to become part of a member of the Enabling Master Plan, the next 5 years, the next one. And there are quite a number of us who are going to be involved in that. And we will bring up issues from the ground to make sure that these are addressed in a fair, sustainable way, and looking at financial modeling, service models, and so forth. The most difficult are the adult services, which are in the dirt for many years because it's difficult.
Yes.
Adult services is, a lot of people, funders out there, don't just look at the cute little babies, children, you want to fund them, and you say, oh, so cute, and, education is so, but there are people who have missed it, who has, who did not have a chance to have good education when they were younger. They're 20s, 30s, 40s, and some of their families are quite poor, They themselves are not even ready for retirement themselves, facing difficulties themselves, So there's a big group out here where we do need to, again, hold conversations and decide, for this group, what will be the right thing, the fair thing to do? What will be something that won't, set a precedent that we cannot continue in the future when we are no more around? So those things are important. We need to look at models, look at processes, look at KPIs and so forth, but in a way that is not so calculated, in a way that consider the values that we want to project in these models or services, and then decide how to fund them.
Yeah.
Because it is whatever we fund for this, from 21 example to 65, guess who's going to bear it? The families themselves plus the rest of Singapore.
Yeah.
And if we need to decide, this is the right thing to do, we do it. Then what's the right model to make sure that it's sustainable? So we need to ask those questions, and we need to stay hard, and
what sort of help
compassion
is available?
itself is not
Denise,
enough.
what sort of help is available for adults with autism?
Autism.
For example, just autism.
Very little at the moment. You see, when we first started volunteering, quite a number of us in this group that I'm active with, we started with the very young children. We fought, we didn't fight. We advocated a lot, with the current, the government agencies, the voluntary agencies, and really we have just started turning our attention to the adults. And also because the children, lo and behold, children grow up, and these teenagers become adults, and some of them are able, sure, they go to universities and all that. Please support them when they go, okay, and when they go become your classmate, and so we discovered that there's a whole range of services that we need, not just for those who need to be in day activity center, the more severe ones, but also those who happen to be in your midst, in the universities, in the ITEs, in the polytechnics. Many of them, because we haven't really gone into that space yet.
But these are not those with severe autism, right?
Well, moderate, mild.
But severe, it would be very difficult to go to.
Very severe would be difficult. They'll probably end up in the centers or sheltered workshops, But there are many out there who need support. And I'm asking, in fact, I've asked and rejected a few times. I'm going to ask again this parliament term to ask for support, more structured support for these, for either undergraduates or students in the tertiary institutions for higher learning. I've seen it in Berkeley. I've seen it in different places. I know it's doable. We have to decide what we want, and then we build a model that's doable and that's lasting. And I like to see that. I hope that most of you probably have a degree or some connected to the university. Please, and maybe the alumni, maybe we should do something about that to support people with special needs, not just autism, special needs, hearing impaired. I have a young man I converse with a lot. He pays for his own, the sign interpreter. And when he comes and have a meeting with me, I say, never mind, I pay for you. But can you imagine when he goes for formal meetings or lectures, he pays for his own. And so these are things that we can do. And it doesn't need a big parliamentary debate or constitution change. We can do it, We can do it within, amongst ourselves. And I challenge the university folks to do this, the alumni. If other universities don't do that, NUS do that, So I
No,
hope,
it's definitely something that you know, I guess as alumni, as students, it's something for us to start addressing at least. You know, it's a real issue because the burden is severe on the next of kin. The level of support that is rendered to the next of kin is quite minimal at this point in time. And we're really talking about basic quality of life that I think these individuals have a right to want. You know. Can we get some questions, Val, from the... Val is... you want to introduce yourself, Val?
Hi, I'm Valerie. I am the web moderator today. There's been a conversation going on while you've been talking, and I'd just like to bring up a couple of points.
Is it active?
Yeah, pretty active. Lots
pretty
of
active.
Lots
See,
of opinions.
While we are doing this, there's a live web chat going on. We're watching this live. And so here are some questions from them, right?
So there's a bit of a conversation going on about volunteerism in Singapore. I'd just like to quote some comments that people have written.
CIP is good, huh? Okay, so carry on.
Now she's being a politician.
No, I don't want them all to not do anything, you know.
Okay.
So about volunteerism in Singapore. So Mr. Bo Yan Koo has said, I doubt many Singaporeans will have the courage to walk up to someone in need and shower them with love and compassion. It has a lot to do with our general upbringing. And I think later on in the conversation, username Lingers said, I suppose personally for me, a lot of the time, I don't know how to approach someone who needs a helping hand without offending them while respecting their dignity. So, I mean, what has your experience been with volunteerism in Singapore?
You know why this happens? Because we never grow up with people who are different. And so every time, you know, it seems like they're so, you know, so what do I do with you? You know, do I say, oh, look, you look like you have autism, you know, or, you know, so the awkwardness is there. And so really the root cause is we should try to grow up all together, different types of people. Huh? So that's settling at the root cause. I mean, I don't know what I'm expected to say, but all I can say is, I think we mustn't treat people with disabilities or special needs. I can't speak for all of them. I just meet a lot of them. I have conversations with them. I think we shouldn't see them as objects of pity. You know, so do you, you know, if we think, you know, somebody needs help, you know, you just ask them, excuse me, do you need help? You know, you're crossing the road, right? I mean, I always, you know, somebody's visually impaired, and we live near the Toa Payoh Thompson area. So I'll ask, do you need help? And if he say he doesn't, then he doesn't. You know, you don't have to feel like there are some, you know, gosh, you know, so fragile that if, you know, if you say a word wrong to them, they'll, you know, you'll be sent to hell or something. You know, so no, I don't think so. I think we just try to do what we would do to help a typical person and just be considerate. You know, if somebody...
I guess one of the concerns that's coming through is a certain amount of caution in case you're embarrassed in public. I mean, I know of several Singaporeans who are even shy to stand up in a public transport vehicle to offer their seat in case that seat is not accepted. You know, we lose face quite easily, so a lot of the time it's not that we don't want to help in case you're snubbed, in case you're yelled at. I remember when I was much younger in secondary 1, I offered my seat to some Samsui woman, and I got scolded in some language. It didn't sound like Chinese, you know, but because she was very, you know, Samsui women are very proud, and they said, you know what, you think I can't stand? You know, so from that day onwards, I was very scared to offer seats.
And he was traumatized.
I was traumatized, you know, as you can tell what has happened to me, you know. So how would you respond to that? I mean, apart from
I don't know. I just know that
having a thicker skin.
These things happen. You know, when we serve, one thing is very important. I was reading some books about serving. You know? You just have to. How do I say? When you want to help, you just have to die to yourself. You know, and you know, and you just, you know, just don't focus too much
on
yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, you may get bashed, you may get embarrassed, and, you know, just laugh and just go away.
That's
you know?
fantastic advice. That's so true. You know, less importance to yourself. I think we give ourselves a lot of importance, actually, right? Especially Singaporeans. I'm not sure about the Malaysians and all, but Singaporeans. Yes, Val, some more.
Hello. Yeah, on the same topic, I think someone asked, like, specifically to Pathlight, how did you find volunteers? Was it difficult in the beginning? And, what was it like, that process? Yeah.
When it was not established.
Because I put the mission first, and therefore the volunteers, will come second to the mission. So the volunteers must come with me to support that mission. So for example, if I were looking out, if my core business is to give a good quality education, and to do that, one of my enablers will be to have quality teachers who are competent and who are also compassionate. But I want competence, not just compassion only. And therefore, I will then have to look for these teachers. And so I just give an example. So to find these teachers, I'll first have to, advertise, and go out to usually online and friends. And basically, I will also have to look for volunteers who are able to help me to interview them. And so my volunteers, for example, for this space, we are very careful in asking, the right people. And even then, because we have a certain methodology of behavioral interviewing and so forth, and a battery of selection tools, then I train my volunteers. Even if, I just need to get the right quality, and I train them, and they need to be willing to come and spend the time with me to be trained. And then these are the volunteers that will who stay with me for a long, long time. So I have a lot of requests for volunteer work, usually once a year and so forth. And we do, And so one of the things that we try to do in school, both Pathlight and Eden, is what we call, let the major be the major. Let what is important stay there, and then everything else are enablers. If you invite me to a gala dinner, and it's going to, you need all my children to come here and be seen, because, but if they're having their exams, or if they're having, they have work to do, I will not then take them away from class to come for the gala dinner, because my core business is education. So I put that first. And I think those of you who have children, adult or otherwise, or young ones, who have children who go to school, you want your children to be respected that way when they go to school as well. They're not taken out to go for rehearsals, to perform for a VIP. Yeah. So we're very particular about keeping the major, and then understanding, also thinking three steps ahead, on what's required for them. And really, Pathlight might have a lot of visibility, but there are lots of challenges. As the children grow, as they go out to tertiary institutions, there's so many challenges as they enter puberty, and what typical children face, they will face, and they'll have be taught in a way that is suitable for them. So there are lots of challenges, and so these are things that we face as a school. I can't have the principal and myself, just looking after volunteers every day. We explain to volunteers, their education is our business, and it's a very serious business. I had someone, and therefore, what you do, can you help me to achieve the mission? I like as many people as possible, not just our staff to be mission-driven. I like our volunteers to be mission-driven, to take our mission seriously. We're not making money, we're making lives, we're transforming lives. And that's even more serious. Yep. So that's how we try to then engage all our volunteers. So in fact, every year, in the beginning, first 6 or 7 months, I have hundreds of these interns who come with me, and they do serious work. I give them a small allowance, but they do serious work with me, and they are really good, So those are what we call
how old
some
are
of
they,
the
on average?
GCA after JC, and before and some
Before
of them after NS, National Service. They come in US. You call it the gap year. Yep. Here we laugh and say gap months, just the gap months. So yes, we need, but volunteers must know that again, it's the mindset of serving. You see, when we serve, we must always think not just of ourselves, but the people whom we are serving. What do they need? And therefore, do I have the talent and passion and time to provide that? If not, then maybe I can get someone to support them that way, or can do it in different ways.
In fact, you can cause more harm if you go in and then get out within a few months, because you create dependency and you're not there to see them through. I've experienced volunteers like that as well. There's early enthusiasm, and then it wanes very fast, and then you leave a gap, an emotional gap, you know. So, yeah.
I had a very affluent woman when during my initial years of volunteering. I won't mention names, you know. And then she really wanted to volunteer because she has time, and I think she's quite rich, you know. And then when she volunteers, I have to be next to her, you know, or near, you know, providing the attention. And after a while, I said, you know, I think I cannot, you know, maybe you just write me a check. You know? And so that's when, and she's a lovely lady. And after I said, I just can't spend all my time with you, you know, when you're volunteering with us, because I have other things that I need to do.
So you're going to volunteer for her.
Yeah, but I mean, it worked out well, but it was just one of those things that and it started me thinking. And also when we give, you know, at first when you're a charity and people see you as, you know, quite low priority, at one stage I was getting computers that people want to throw away because they're very, very slow. And when it came to my children and my students, it's quite sad for me, and you know, it was so slow, and they couldn't use it, and then we had to pay money to dispose of the. And that's when I learned so much as a volunteer, you know, that when we serve, we think of the people we think first the people we're serving. That's one. Second is when we give, don't give your crumbs, give them something that you yourself would also like to have, and I think they deserve. You know, they are not. They're not the outcasts or the lowest class of citizens in our country. So when we give, we give with respect. We treat them with dignity, you know, and we don't see them as just so pitiful. I think that's important. I think Singaporeans need to know how to give, you know, give in a way that's respectful of the other people. I think that's very important.
Well, thanks a lot. We'll have to end here. Otherwise, we'll all be here. No, not to worry. You see, what we're going to have is we're going to have a short break and then another maybe 25 minutes of private time with Denise, where you can ask more detailed questions, because there are people here who want to go back. So I don't want to hold them back. I've actually extended this discussion by 20 minutes for you, Denise.
It's my fault.
Mainly because I feel that we are interested in what we hear from you, and you're speaking from your heart. It's not often that we hear that from our own alumni. And, well, it leaves me now to invite all of you to join me in thanking Denise, not just for being here tonight, but for being Denise Phua. Thank you very much. And in typical Singaporean fashion, we're not going to leave you without a gift. So we've got a gift, and the most important part of this gift is that you've got a picture with me. Denise?
I would treasure it.
You treasure it. Okay. It's really a picture of us together here.
And I won't dispose of it.
Yeah. Okay. Tay, remember, don't let her dispose. I know she'll go back and chuck it. Right? But thank you so much, Denise. Thank you. Thank you. And there's one more. Okay, this is for us. This is for us. We need you to say something nice about us. Okay. You got a pen? Yeah, here you are. You can say something nice about me as well, but...
And there's an angle I was instructed this way?
No, you can write first and then you can show.
All right.
Going by handwriting, I think she's a doctor.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Today is 22nd. Well, you want to read it?
You can't read it?
I can't.
I just want to say thank you for being here, for making a difference. And I wish all of you a life of abundance, a life of significance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Denise. And I'm giving a standing ovation. I don't know about you guys.
No.
Thank you. This is Denise Phua, the new brand ambassador for Nike.
Just do it.
Yeah. Thank you. See you guys outside. Go.